The river had always known how to keep secrets. It slid past Riverrun in the dark with the same cold patience it had shown when kings rode to war, when boys became corpses, when wedding halls ran red, when banners were lowered and raised again for men who believed stone could remember loyalty better than flesh. It did not mourn House Tully. It did not rage against the lions now walking through Tully halls. It moved beneath the water gate in a black, silent current, tugging at the old chains, whispering against the slick stones, offering the only road left to a man too stubborn to bend and too old to mistake dying for victory. Brynden stood beneath the arch with his sword in hand and listened to Riverrun fall. Above him, boots struck flagstones in disciplined waves. Lannister men, Frey men.u. Men who had not bled for these walls. Men who would not know which stair turned treacherous in rain, which tower room smelled of rushes no matter how often it was scrubbed, which stretch of inner wall had cracked during his father's youth and been patched with stone carried up by boys from the village. They moved through the castle as conquerors always did, loud at first, then quieter when they realized what they had taken was not merely a fortress, but a memory. The dead occupied Riverrun more heavily than the living now. A younger man might have gone back. A younger man might have charged up those steps and buried his sword in the first red cloak he found, then the second, then the third, until numbers and age dragged him down. A younger man might have called that honor. Brynden had watched too many boys die with honor in their mouths and arrows in their throats to be fooled by the taste of it. He had seen Robb Stark ride from Riverrun with a crown on his head and grief behind his eyes. He had seen Catelyn try to hold a kingdom together with the same hands that had once held children. He had seen bannermen swear, argue, drink, boast, and vanish into mud. He had seen Edmure, foolish and kind and broken, brought before his own gates with a child's life hanging from his surrender. And he had heard, not an hour past, the dull groan of Riverrun's portcullis rising under the command of its rightful lord. Rightful, aye. That was the poison of it. Edmure had yielded. The castle was surrendered lawfully. Jaime had not stormed it. The King's Lair had not taken Riverrun by courage, siegecraft, or blood. He had taken it with a prisoner's love for a wife and son he barely knew, with the ruin of a house wrapped neatly in the language of duty. The boy had learned from Tywin after all. A footstep splashed behind him. "Sir," whispered one of the men, though Brynden had not been knighted by his own patience and did not care what title they used now. "They are searching the lower stores. How many with us?" 9. Brynden turned. 9 men stood in the half-dark beneath the water gate. Rivermen, mostly. 2 wore scraps of Tully blue beneath cloaks darkened with mud. One had served his brother Hoster. Another had followed Robb from the Whispering Wood to the crag and back again. One was no more than 20, though the hollows beneath his eyes made him look older. They had come because they preferred the river to chains. They had come because they believed the Blackfish would know where to go. That was the trouble with surviving. Men started thinking you had answers. 9 is enough for a boat, Brynden said. And after the boat? After the boat, we try not to be fools. A faint smile moved through them. Not joy, not even courage. Merely the small relief men felt when death had not yet been asked to sit beside them. From above came a shout, then another. A door slammed. Metal scraped stone. Somewhere in the belly of Riverrun, a woman cried out and was silenced by another voice. Not cruelly, but sharply. The castle was being swallowed room by room. Brynden looked back once. The stair behind him rose toward the hall where Hoster had judged quarrels, where Catelyn had walked with her hair unbound as a girl, where Lysa had sulked in corners, where Edmure had played at being gallant before he was old enough to know gallantry could be used as a leash. He could almost hear Hoster's voice telling him he was too wild, too hard, too ready to quarrel. He could hear his own younger laughter, the kind that belonged to a man who still believed there would always be another chance to set things right. There was no setting Riverrun right tonight. There was only the river. "Open it," he said. The old chain wheel resisted at first. One man strained, then another joined him, and the iron teeth complained in the wall. The water gate lifted by inches. Cold air breathed through. The river smell rushed in. Mud, reeds, fish, rot, rain. Freedom rarely smelled sweet. A crossbow bolt clattered from the stair and struck sparks from the stone near Brynden's boot. "There!" a Lannister voice shouted. Brynden moved before the echo faded. The first soldier came down fast, overconfident, the red cloak on his shoulders, and the castle already one above him. Brynden let him descend 3 steps, then cut the man's knee sideways and drove him screaming into the wall. The second tried to fire from behind him. Brynden seized the wounded man by the collar and used him as shield. The bolt punched through red wool and meat. Brynden thrust under the dying body, felt his blade strike mail, slide, then bite beneath the ribs. "Boat!" he barked. His men ducked under the rising gate. One after another, they plunged waist-deep into the freezing black current, passing packs and blades into the low riverboat hidden among reeds beyond the arch. Another bolt snapped past Brynden's shoulder. He retreated 1 step, then another, never turning his back. A face appeared above the stair landing. Not Jaime. Some captain with a lion on his breast and fear in his eyes. "Sir Brynden," the man called. "Yield. Lord Edmure commands." Lord Edmure commanded enough for one night. The captain hesitated. That was his mistake. Brynden kicked the wounded soldier toward him, turned, and slid beneath the gate as the chain groaned overhead. Cold seized him like a hand around the heart. For one savage instant he was young again in the rivers of his boyhood, diving while Hoster cursed from the bank. Then the current dragged at his cloak, his boots found silt, and hands hauled him into the boat. "Push," he ordered. They pushed. The boat slid from Riverrun's shadow without a lantern. Behind them, the castle rose black and red against the moonless sky, its towers pricked with torches, its banners not yet changed but already defeated. Men shouted from the walls. One torch arced down and died hissing in the river. Another followed, then a third, each too far to show the boat clearly. Brynden crouched low, water streaming from his beard, sword across his knees. He did not look away until Riverrun became a shape instead of a home. Only then did the young man across from him speak. "Where do we go, sir?" The river carried them north and east through darkness. Every road was watched. Every inn would have ears. Freys held the crossings. Lannisters held the fields. The Riverlands were a wound with flies gathered over it. There were no safe paths left, only dangerous ones chosen for a purpose. Brynden closed his hand around the hilt of his sword. "First," he said, "we live through the night. And then," the old knight's jaw tightened, "then we find a wolf." They traveled without fire. For 3 nights, the boat carried them through drowned country, past banks where reeds grew high enough to hide a man if he did not mind lying with leeches, past villages where only chimneys remained, past mills whose wheels hung broken over streams clogged with ash and leaves. By day they hid beneath overhangs or among willow roots, sleeping in turns with blades across their laps. By night they moved, sometimes rowing, sometimes letting the current take them, sometimes dragging the boat by rope through shallows where the water whispered over stone. The Riverlands had become a place where silence was safer than speech. Brynden knew every ruined mile of it. Not because the land looked as it had when he was young, but because he remembered what had been there before men made sport of burning it. There had been apple trees beside one bend, once. A ferry house with a yellow dog near another. A sept whose bells could be heard across the water on clear mornings. Now the orchard was stumps. The ferry house was ribs of timber, and the sept bell lay cracked in the mud with moss gathering in the split. War did not end when kings died. That was another lie singers enjoyed. War stayed in fields that would not be planted, in daughters hidden when riders came, in boys who stole because no one had taught them anything else, in old men who stared too long at roads. Robb's war had passed through here like a bright blade. Tywin's answer had been fire. The Freys had come after as rats came after slaughter. On the 4th night, they found the hanging men. 3 bodies swung from an oak near a ford. turning gently in the damp wind. Their feet were bare. Their faces were swollen beyond recognition. Around the neck of the middle one hung a board marked in crude letters. Wolf Lover. One of Brynden's men spat into the mud. Freys. Could be Lannisters, another muttered. Could be men who changed cloaks twice and call that wisdom, Brynden said. He climbed from the boat and approached the tree. No one stopped him. The youngest man, Pedder, made the sign of the seven as though that would trouble the gods into remembering this corner of their creation. Brynden read the board again. Wolf Lover. A strange crime. To love the dead. The bodies had been there less than a week. 2 men, 1 woman. The woman's hands were tied in front rather than behind, and beneath the dirt on her sleeve he saw the faded stitching of a trout. Not a noble mark. Household work. A serving woman from some Tully-sworn hall, perhaps. Or a girl who had once stitched the symbol because the trout had meant food, order, a lord who knew her village existed. Cut them down, he said. Sir, we should keep moving. Cut them down. The men obeyed. They worked quickly, glancing toward the road. No one wanted to be found beneath that tree with Tully colors under their cloaks and 3 bodies freshly lowered. But Brynden would not leave them dancing for Frey amusement. They buried them in shallow graves near the bank. No septon spoke. No names were known. Brynden stood over the turned earth and felt age settle into his bones more heavily than mail. We have no time for every dead man in the Riverlands, said Hal, the oldest of the men after Brynden. There was no cruelty in it, only exhaustion. No, Brynden said, but we have time for these 3. After that, the men did not ask where they were going as often. News came in scraps. A tinker with one eye told them the Freys were hunting any man who had escaped Riverrun. A washerwoman at a burned village said the Brotherhood without banners had been seen near Fairmarket, hanging outlaws who preyed on small folk and calling it justice in the name of dead men. A boy selling turnips from a cart claimed a wolf girl had murdered half the twins and baked Lord Walder into a pie. That one made the men laugh until they realized Brynden was not laughing. Could be true, Pettier said hopefully. Could be piss in a cup, Hal replied. Brynden said nothing. In wartime, truth often wore a fool's cloak. He had learned not to dismiss any tale simply because it sounded mad. The Starks had a habit of surviving in stories long after men swore they were gone. On the 6th night they left the river. The boat had taken them as far as it could without delivering them into Frey eyes. They sank it beneath willow shade, covering the last visible edge with mud and branches. From there they moved on foot, north by deer trails and old cattle paths, avoiding the King's Road where possible. The land rose slowly. The air sharpened. The farther they went from Riverrun, the more Brynden felt the pull of another name. Winterfell. He had not seen the place in many years. Not since Catelyn's marriage bound Trout to Wolf and sent his niece north into a world of gray walls, old gods, and solemn men. He remembered Ned Stark as quiet, honorable, less dull than he first appeared and less soft than many southern lords assumed. He remembered Catelyn beside him, proud and young, trying not to show fear as she prepared to become Lady of a Cold Land. He remembered a little boy with auburn hair clutching her skirts. Robb Dutt, the first child. The heir who would become king and corpse before his beard had fully known its shape. The thought of Winterfell in Bolton hands made something old and ugly move inside him. Roose Bolton had been careful. That had always been the danger of him. Men feared Gregor Clegane because he was monstrous in daylight, feared Tywin because he was power-given flesh, feared Jaime because of the songs around his sword. Roose had been quieter. Pale eyes, soft voice. Liege Lord, a man who understood that betrayal worked best when spoken gently. His bastard son did not sound gentle. The first clear word of Ramsay came from a broken man missing 2 fingers on his left hand. They found him hiding near an abandoned shepherd's hut, feverish and half-starved, with a Bolton flaying knife burned into his memory more deeply than any brand. Not Roose now, the man said after Brynden gave him water. Bastard killed him, they say. Fed the babe to dogs, took Winterfell, took the Stark girl too, married her, hurt her, she ran. Brynden went very still. What Stark girl? The man blinked, trying to drag the answer through fever. Red hair, pretty once. Lord Eddard's girl, Sansa. None. Hal cursed under his breath. Brynden crouched before the man. Where is she? North, with the bastard from the wall. The Snow boy. Aye, deaded, some said. Not dead now. Wildlings with him, wants Winterfell back. The man laughed weakly, a sound without mirth. Dead men, wildlings, girls, and ghosts. That's who fights Boltons now. Brynden stood. The wind moved through the grass outside the hut. Somewhere beyond cloud and distance lay the north, bleeding in its own way. A Stark daughter alive. A bastard brother gathering men. A Bolton savage sitting in Ned Stark's seat. For the first time since Riverrun vanished behind him, Brynden knew the shape of the road. Hal saw it in his face. Sir, we go north. With 9 men? With 9 men? Brynden said. And whatever fools still remember what was done at the Twins. Petyr swallowed. To fight Ramsay Bolton? Brynden looked toward the darkness beyond the ruined hut. In his mind, he saw Catelyn standing in Riverrun's yard the day she rode north as a bride. Then he saw her, as he had last seen her. Older, harder, grief pressing at her eyes as Robb's crown made every mother's fear sharper. No, he said, to keep another Stark child from dying like Robb. The road north was not a road at all. It was a stitching together of bad choices. A deer track through oak woods. A flooded ditch beside an abandoned lane. A night march over open fields where every distant lantern might belong to a patrol. A crawl beneath a broken bridge while riders passed overhead, speaking with fray accents and laughing about a girl taken from a farm. Brynden led without complaint and accepted complaint from no one else. By the end of the first week, the 9 had become 12. The first additions were brothers from near Stonehenge, both hard-eyed, both carrying bows too fine for poachers and boots too poor for soldiers. They claimed to have fought under Lord Bracken, then under no one, then for food, then for revenge whenever revenge presented itself with fewer than 6 guards. Brynden nearly sent them away until the older brother mentioned Robb Stark without spitting. Why come with us? Brynden asked. The brother shrugged. Freys killed my cousin after the wedding. Lannisters took our grain. Boltons helped butcher the young wolf. You're going where killing might matter. Nay, untied. It was not loyalty, but it would do. The third was a woman named Mara, who had once carried messages for Robb's outriders, and now dressed as a charcoal burner to move between villages. She found them before they found her, stepping from mist with a knife in hand and a Tully badge hidden under her shirt. I heard the Blackfish died at Riverrun, she said. Brynden grunted. I heard the same. Good thing ghosts walk faster than old men. Hal laughed at that. Brynden almost did. Mara brought more than a knife. She brought names. A hedge knight who had deserted the Freys after the wedding. 2 Mallister men hiding near a marsh. A piper's son who knew how to shoe horses without asking who had stolen them. She also brought certainty that the North was in motion. Jon Snow left the wall, she told them one night, as they sheltered in a hollow beneath pine roots. The Night's Watch killed him or tried to. Then he walked again. Don't ask me how. Men say a red priestess breathed fire back into him. Men say many things, Brynden said. They also say Sansa Stark reached him alive. That silenced the group. The fire between them was tiny, hidden in a pit and shielded by cloaks. Its light showed rainwater on faces, mud on hands, hunger in every cheek. Brynden stared into the coals. Alive, he said. Hey. Escaped Winterfell with Theon Greyjoy. Bolton sent riders after them. They crossed frozen water. Some say Brienne of Tarth found them. Brienne? Tall woman. Oathkeeper, they call her. carries a sword with Lannister gold in the hilt and Stark oaths in the blade. Brynden remembered the woman from Riverrun's walls. Tall, stubborn, too honest for the world she walked through. She had come with Jaime's sword and Catelyn's name on her tongue. He had dismissed her then because Riverrun was under siege and his patience for impossible quests had thinned to nothing. Perhaps he had been wrong. Age did not make a man immune to that. "Where is Sansa now?" he asked. "Castle Black, last anyone knew. But she and Snow are calling banners. Mormonts, Glovers, Hornwoods if any still breathe. Wildlings too." One of the Bracken brothers snorted. "Wildlings in a Stark army. Gods help them." "Gods have been poor help so far," Mara said. Brynden looked up. "How many men does Snow have?" "Not enough." "How many does Bolton have?" "More than enough." There it was. The old sum of war, cruel in its simplicity. More than enough against not enough. Robb had faced such sums and beaten them when he was careful. Whispering wood. Camps divided. Cavalry used where pride blinded older men. But Robb had also trusted honor to shield him beneath a roof. He had believed men could be bound by bread and salt when their appetites had already been purchased by gold and fear. Brynden had warned, argued, watched, and still the boy had gone to the twins because the realm had narrowed around him until every road looked like a trap and one trap had looked like duty. He would not watch Jon Snow ride into the same kind of narrowing. "What is Snow like?" Brynden asked. Mara considered. "Men say he is Ned Stark's son." "That is a name, not an answer. They say he has his father's honor and a dead man's eyes." That was closer to an answer than she knew. The next day, they found horses. Not good horses. 2 sway-backed farm mares, a shaggy Garin, and 1 temperamental gelding with teeth like a tax collector. They took them from a Frey supply wagon after killing 3 guards and letting the 4th run barefoot with a warning tied to his belt. Brynden did not enjoy the warning. Mara did. By then, rumors were spreading behind them. The Blackfish alive. Tully ghosts on the road. Frey men found stripped and tied to trees. Brynden disliked rumors when they endangered him and valued them when they frightened enemies into seeing twice the number of men. He let this one grow. They crossed into the neck under skies the color of beaten lead. The land changed there. The Riverlands did not end so much as sink. Earth became water, water became weed, weed became mist. Paths vanished beneath pools. Horses stepped nervously on ground that trembled. Frogs sang at night with the persistence of mad bells. The Crannogmen did not show themselves, but Brynden felt watched from the first mile. "Will they kill us?" Petyr whispered. "If they meant to kill us," Brynden said, "you would have a reed arrow in your neck already." That did not comfort the boy. On the second evening in the neck, a figure appeared ahead on the path, small and still beneath a hood of woven reeds. The rivermen reached for weapons. Brynden raised a hand. The figure waited until they drew near, then pushed back the hood. A young woman, though her eyes were older than her face. A small bough rested in her hand. 2 more shapes shifted in the mist behind her, unseen until they wished not to be. "Blackfish," she said. "Crannogmen. Wolf blood passes north. Trout blood follows. Do you speak plainly in these bogs? Only to fools. Are you one?" Hal made a low sound. Brynden ignored him. "I am looking for Sansa Stark," he said. "We know. Do you know where she is?" "Not here." Brynden waited. The Crannogwoman smiled faintly, as if patience pleased her. "She rides with her brother who is not her brother, gathering a host that is not a host, against a lord who is not a lord. Ramsay Bolton. Monster names are still names. Can you guide us?" "No." "Will you?" The mist thickened between them. Somewhere close by, water moved though no wind touched it. "My father says the wolves must return to Winterfell," she said. "He says the old dead's wake when old blood walks north." "Howland Reed says this?" The young woman's expression did not change. but the silence confirmed enough. Brynden felt something tighten in the air. Howland Reed, Ned Stark's shadow from the Tower of Joy. A man who had vanished into swamp and memory while the realm tore itself apart. If he was moving, even through daughters or sons or whispers, then the North had not been as asleep as its enemies believed. The Crannogmen lifted one hand and pointed into the mist. 3 days that way. Stay where the ground is ugly. Pretty paths drown men. On the 4th morning you will find a broken causeway. Follow the stones beneath the water. Do not light fires. Do not answer voices at night, even if they sound like you're dead. No, Betsa, Pedir, when pale. Is that warning or mummery? Brynden asked. In the neck, old man, they are the same. She tossed him a small bundle wrapped in oiled leather. Inside were dried fish, black bread, and a strip of parchment marked with signs that were not letters, but might be paths, if a man knew how to look sideways at them. Why help us? Brynden asked. The young woman drew her hood back up. Because Catelyn Stark's daughter crossed snow with death behind her, and the North remembers who came when the wolves called. Then she was gone into mist, and the 2 shapes behind her vanished with her. No one spoke for a long while. At last, Hal muttered, I hate bogs. Brynden tucked the parchment inside his coat. Better than phrase. A fever is better than phrase. Most things are. They moved on. That night, Brynden dreamed of the twins. He stood again beneath the rafters while music twisted wrong in the air. Robb was looking at him, though Brynden had not been there when the knives came out. Catelyn stood beside her son with blood in her hands and no wound in her throat yet. She did not use him. That was worse. She only looked past him, as if waiting for someone who had not arrived in time. When Brynden woke, the marsh was still dark. His hand was on his sword. His heart hammered like hooves on a bridge. Mara sat nearby, keeping watch. Bad dream? Old one. Those are worse. Aye. She passed him a skin of water. He drank, wiped his mouth, and looked north. Beyond the neck waited a girl who had escaped a butcher, a dead man's bastard gathering wildlings, a castle stolen by flayed men, and a battle that would decide whether House Stark became memory or power again. Brynden rose before dawn and kicked the others awake. Move, he said. The wolves are waiting. The North received them with cold rain. It fell not in southern sheets, but in fine needling lines that found every gap in cloak and collar, turning wool heavy and mail cruel. The land widened after the neck, the sky opening over moors and pine woods, over low hills patched with stubborn grass, over villages where smoke rose thin from chimneys, because fuel was precious, and winter had sharpened every habit. Men watched from doorways as Brynden's company passed. Women pulled children back. Dogs barked once, and then thought better of it. No one cheered a Tully banner. No one cursed it either. That was the first sign the North was not conquered in the way men in southern halls believed places were conquered. The Boltons held Winterfell. Their allies held Rhodes. Their fear traveled farther than their patrols. But beneath it, under the silence, something remained. Not rebellion, not yet. Rebellion had banners and ravens and fools boasting before they had grain. This was older, a refusal to forget. In one village, an old woman gave them turnips and would take no coin. "For Lady Catelyn," she said, and shut the door before Brynden could answer. In another, a boy no older than 10 stared at the mud-dark trout badge beneath Hal's cloak and whispered, "Is the young wolf coming back?" Hal looked away. Brynden crouched to the boy's height. No. The child's face fell. Brynden did not soften the truth. Lies fed children for a moment and starved them later. But his sister is alive. The boy's eyes changed. Not bright exactly. Brightness was too clean a word for a child who had learned to whisper in his own village. But something woke there. Lady Sansa. Aye. Is she coming home? That is the work. The boy nodded solemnly, as if entrusted with part of it. By then, Brynden had 23 following him. The number should have been meaningless. 23 men could not take a castle, could not break a Bolton army, could not change the great grinding wheel of war. Yet numbers were not always weight. Sometimes they were sparks. One man who had served Robb. One woman whose brother had been flayed for hiding grain. 2 shepherds who knew the goat tracks west of Winterfell. A graybeard with one eye who claimed to have fought beside Ned during Greyjoy's rebellion and still carried a spear with the shaft worn smooth by old hands. They came quietly, never all at once, appearing at the edge of camps, offering a name, a grievance, a blade. Brynden accepted some and sent others away. "No boys," he said after a lad of 15 tried to join with a hunting knife. "I can fight. Can you obey?" The boy glared. "That answers it. My father died for Robb Stark, then let his son live long enough to become useful. It was cruel." The boy's pride cracked in front of him. But Brynden had watched too many lads call dying a man's duty because no old bastard had been kind enough to shame them into living. He gave the boy a task instead. Carry word north through the farms that Sansa Stark lived, and that any man who knew Bolton movements should send signs by smoke, stone, or silence. The boy went angry. Angry was alive. The closer they came to the gathering host, the more the land seemed to hold its breath. They found Jon Snow's army near a low rise south of the Wolfswood, if army was the word for it. Brynden had seen armies. This was a wound trying to become a fist. Wildlings made up the largest part. Hard people in furs and mismatched armor, with axes at their belts and suspicion in every glance. They moved differently from southern soldiers, less like men trained to hold formation and more like wolves forced to walk upright, each aware of the others but unwilling to surrender the space around himself. Some carried round shields. Some carried bows. Some carried weapons taken from dead Night's Watch brothers or dead men farther north than Brynden cared to imagine. Beside them were northern levies too few in number and too proud to admit fear of the company they kept. Mormont men and women with bear badges. Hornwood remnants. A handful sworn to smaller houses whose names had survived because their castles were too poor to tempt ambitious men. There were no great hosts of Manderleys or Glovers. No flood of mounted knights. No line of banners deep enough to make a lord sleep easily. Near the center of camp stood a black banner bearing a white direwolf. Brynden stopped when he saw it. For one moment, he was back in Robb's war. The air smelled of horse sweat and wet leather. Men looked toward a wolf banner and believed the world might yet be forced into justice. Then the vision passed, and he saw the truth before him. Hungry men, tired men, desperate men, and one dead boy's brother trying to carry a kingdom on shoulders that had already carried a grave. Jon stood near a map table made from planks laid over barrels. He was younger than Brynden expected, and older than any man his age had the right to look. Dark hair, solemn face, stark long in the bone if not in the name. There was a stillness about him that did not belong to mere reserve. Men who had nearly died sometimes carried that stillness. Men who had died, if the tales were true, perhaps carried it deeper. Beside him stood Davos, broad and weathered, with the look of a man who had learned command from ships and lost from kings. Tormund loomed nearby in wildling furs, red beard bright even under gray sky, speaking too loudly to a Mormont captain who clearly wished him swallowed by the earth. And there, apart but not weakly, stood Sansa. Brynden knew her by the hair first. Catelyn's hair, auburn touched by northern light, braided simply, falling over a dark cloak. Then she turned, and he saw Ned in the guarded set of her face, Catelyn in the eyes, and something neither parent had possessed at her age, a coldness shaped by survival rather than temperament. For a heartbeat, he saw the child she had been at Winterfell when he had visited long ago, all courtesy and songs and southern dreams. Then the woman looked at him, and the child vanished. Jon noticed her attention and turned. Hands moved toward weapons around the camp. Wildlings did not know him. Northmen did. One of the Mormont men whispered, "Blackfish." The name ran outward faster than any command. Jon stepped away from the table. "Sir Brynden?" Brynden approached through the mud. His men fanned behind him, fewer than an honor guard and more than a rumor. He stopped before Sansa first. "My lady," he said. Her composure held, but something moved beneath it. "You knew my mother." "Eh?" Her throat shifted. She did not ask if Catelyn had spoken of her. Perhaps she feared the answer. Perhaps she knew grief had no kindness left to offer in public. Brynden bowed his head. Not deeply. His bones disliked ceremony and his pride disliked most people. But for Catelyn's daughter, he bent. "I should have come sooner," he said. Sansa's face tightened, and for a moment the mask nearly cracked. "Many should have." Aye. That answer seemed to satisfy her more than apology would have. Jon held out his hand. "Jon Snow." Brynden took it. The grip was firm. Not a lord's soft clasp, not a boy's test of strength. A soldier's hand. "Good. Good. You look like Ned," Brynden said. "So I'm told. And like you've been losing sleep." "That too." Tormund leaned toward Davos. "Who's the old fish?" Davos murmured. "A man worth listening to, I expect." Brynden glanced at the wildling. "And you are?" "Tormund. Do you obey orders?" The wildling grinned. "Depends on the order. Then we'll get along poorly." Tormund laughed. Brynden did not. Jon looked past Brynden to the small company behind him. "You came from Riverrun? What is left of it?" "I heard you died." "I keep hearing that. It has yet to improve my mood." A few men laughed softly. The sound eased something in the camp, though not enough. Sansa stepped closer. "Riverrun fell?" Brynden met her eyes. "Edmure surrendered. Jaime Lannister holds the castle through Frey hands and royal threats." Pain crossed her face at Edmure's name, then anger at Jaime's. She had learned to stack grief neatly, this girl. Dangerous skill. "I'm sorry," she said. "So am I. But Riverrun is stone. You are blood." Jon's gaze sharpened. He heard the meaning. Brynden turned to the map table. "Show me Winterfell." No one told him he had not been invited to command. That was promising, or it meant they were desperate. The map was poor but serviceable, scratched onto hide with stones marking known forces. Bolton's strength. Stark camp. Hills. Roads. The castle drawn with more hope than detail. Brynden studied it in silence. "How many men?" he asked. Jon answered. "Fewer than Ramsay." "I did not ask for poetry." Davos gave a small approving grunt. 2,000 wildlings near enough. A few hundred Northmen. 62 Mormonts. 62. Brynden looked up. A young girl's voice cut in from behind him. "And everyone worth 10 Boltons." Lyanna Mormont stood with her chin raised, small as a child and stern as a hanging judge. Brynden eyed her. "Then we have 620 Boltons answered," he said. "How many remain after that?" For one startled second, the girl seemed offended. Then she smiled despite herself. Jon continued. "Ramsay has maybe 5,000. More cavalry. Better position. Winterfell behind him. Hostage?" The camp quieted. Sansa said, "Rickon?" Brynden had expected it. That did not make it easier. Another Stark child in enemy hands. Another wolf used to bait the living. Jon's jaw clenched. "My brother. Does Ramsay know you love him?" Jon's eyes hardened. "What kind of question is that?" "The only one that matters." Sansa looked at Brynden then, and he knew she understood before Jon did. "Hell, use Rickon," she said. Her voice was flat. "You will not keep him alive unless Rickon is useful. If he brings him out, it will be to make Jon break." Jon turned on her, wounded. "You don't know that." "I know Ramsay." The words landed colder than rain. Brynden studied the two of them. There it was. The crack Ramsay would widen if allowed. Jon's honor. Sansa's knowledge. Love against experience. Hope against memory. He had seen such divisions before battle. If not mended, they became graves. He set both hands on the map table. Then we do not give Ramsay the battle he wants. Jon looked back at him. And what battle does he want? Brynden pointed at the open ground south of Winterfell. One where you see your brother, forget your army, and ride alone into a field already measured for your death. No one spoke. The rain whispered over hide and wood. Jon's face had gone pale with anger, but he did not deny it. That was something. Brynden leaned closer. I watched Robb Stark win battles older men thought impossible. I also watched the realm narrow him until one hall full of enemies seemed like a road he had to take. You are not Robb. Ramsay is not Walder Frey. But bait is bait, and dead Starks feed the same carrion birds. Sansa lowered her eyes briefly. When she raised them, there was no girl left in them at all. What would you do? She asked. Brynden looked at Winterfell on the map, at the stones representing fewer men than he wanted, at the space between desperation and slaughter. I would make Ramsay think he knows us, he said, then punish him for it. War councils were where pride went to dress itself as wisdom. Brynden had endured more of them than he cared to remember. Lords loved map tables because carved hills and painted rivers made murder look orderly. Young commanders loved them because moving stones gave the pleasing illusion that men would move just as cleanly. Old commanders learned to look beyond the map, to boots, bellies, weather, fear, discipline, jealousy, and the thousand small stupidities by which armies destroyed themselves before enemies had the courtesy to help. Jon Snow's council had no excess of pride, which was good, and no excess of certainty, which was better. What it had instead was pain. Jon wanted Rickon back with a desperation he was trying to make sound like strategy. Sansa wanted Ramsay dead with a calm that had passed beyond hatred into something harder. Davos wanted to keep the army alive long enough for victory to become possible. Tormund wanted to hit something before all the talking curdled his blood. Lyanna Mormont wanted the grown men to stop wasting time and prove worthy of the North they kept invoking. The others, minor lords, captains, wildling chiefs, wanted different things depending on what fear had whispered to them last. Brynden listened until listening became more useful than speaking, then spoke. You cannot storm Winterfell with this host. A Hornwood man bristled. We know the castle. Knowing a wall does not make it shorter. The Boltons took it. Theon Greyjoy took it with deception from inside. Then Ramsay took it from men who had already broken it. You do not have either advantage unless someone here has a key and an army hidden under his cloak. No one answered. Brynden tapped the map. Ramsay holds the castle. He has more men, more horse, more food, and your brother? If he is patient, he wins. Ramsay is not patient, Sansa said. Brynden looked at her. No, he is vain. Her mouth tightened faintly. Not quite a smile. Yes. Jon folded his arms. He could stay behind the walls. He could, Brynden said. But men like Ramsay do not want victory alone. They want witnesses. He will want the North to see you fail. He will want Sansa to hear them scream your name before it dies in their mouths. He will want Rickon used where all eyes can see. No. Jon turned away, jaw working. Davos spoke gently. He needs you angry, Jon. I know that. No, Brynden said. You believe it. You do not know it yet. Knowing comes when the bait is in front of you and your legs still obey command. Jon's eyes flashed. For a moment the dead man looked young enough to strike him. Brynden welcomed it. Better anger here than in the field. You think I'll abandon my men? Jon demanded. I think you are Ned Stark's blood in all but name, and Ned rode south because honor told him truth was shield enough. I think Robb broke his word for love, and still believed he could mend the world by apologizing to vipers. I think Catelyn freed Jaime Lannister because a mother's hope can drown a queen's judgment. I think good hearts make poor armor when enemies aim for them. Isha. Sansa flinched at Catelyn's name, but did not look away. Jon's anger did not vanish. It settled. That too was promising. "What do you suggest?" he asked. "First, we stop calling this a rescue." The words struck harder than a shout. Jon stared. "He's my brother, and Ramsay's prisoner. If Rickon can be saved, we save him. But if the battle plan depends on Ramsay allowing it, then the plan is a prayer, not war." Tormund grunted. "Harsh old fish." "A live old fish?" Davos rubbed his chin. "He's right." Jon looked at Davos as if betrayed. "He is," Davos said quietly. "I have seen kings burn men because they thought destiny made the fire clean. I have seen boys die because older men dressed hope as command. We need a plan that survives grief." Sansa's voice came soft but clear. "Ramsay will expect Jon to run." "Hey," Brynden said. "So we let him expect it." Jon looked between them. "No, you have not heard the rest. I won't use Rickon as bait. Ramsay already has. Refusing to admit it does not make you noble. It makes you late." The council went still. Even Tormund's grin faded. Jon stepped close enough that the map table stood like a low wall between them. "Careful." Brynden held his gaze. "I am being careful. That is why you are angry." For a long moment there was only rain on canvas and the distant murmur of camp. Men had gathered beyond the council tent, sensing thunder without hearing words. Sansa watched Jon, not Brynden. Her face had tightened with something like fear, not of Jon, but for him. She knew the shape of the wound Ramsay would press. At last, Jon looked down at the map. "Say it," he said. Brynden nodded once. "Ramsay expects you to charge if Rickon runs. He will have archers ready, perhaps cavalry screened, perhaps pits or caltrops. He wants you ahead of your line. Instead, when Rickon is shown, you remain behind the first shield rank." Jon's hand curled into a fist. Brynden continued before objection could sharpen. "We prepare smoke, wet straw, pitch, greenwood, anything that blinds a clean shot. We prepare a shield advance, not a lone ride. The wildlings hate shields." "Nani, Abdamna." Tormund shrugged. "We use them when arrows are falling." "Good. Then they will love them enough. We create lanes in our own line. If Ramsay charges, we give ground where we choose, not where fear drives us. Mud here." He tapped a shallow depression south of the castle. "Can it be worsened?" A Mormont captain leaned in. "With water from the stream, if we work at night." "Do it." "Stakes here, low and angled. Not enough to stop infantry. Enough to ruin horses that think they are already victorious. Wagons here and here, with gaps that look accidental. Archers behind. Stones if you lack arrows. Every man who can dig, digs. Nee. Bah." A wildling chief spat. "Free folk don't hide behind holes." Brynden looked at him. "Then die in front of them and improve the army's wisdom." The chief bared his teeth. Tormund laughed loudly enough to save face for everyone. "He talks like a mean old crow," Tormund said. "But holes are good. I've seen mammoths fall in holes." "We have no mammoths," Davos said. "Then it'll work even better on horses." The tension eased. Brynden moved stones on the map. Ramsay's strength is horse and fear. We blunt one and refuse the other. He believes your army is a quarrel between bastards, wildlings, and frightened northern boys, so we show him disorder. Sansa understood at once. Let his scouts see arguments. Hey, wildlings shouting at Northmen. Men moving wagons poorly by daylight and correctly by night. Fires placed to suggest our numbers are uneven. Rumors that Jon will challenge Ramsay alone if Rickon is harmed. No, Jon said. Rumors are not vows. They can become them. Only if you are fool enough to obey your own lie. Jon's mouth tightened, but he did not refuse again. Davos leaned over the map. And Winterfell itself? Brynden looked to Sansa. She drew a breath. Everyone saw it cost her something. There are people inside who hate him, not enough to rise alone, but they hate him. Names? Some. Servants. Kennel boys. Men who serve my father. Women Ramsay thinks too frightened to remember doors. Brynden studied her. Can word reach them? Sansa hesitated. Perhaps? Not perhaps. Can it? No. Her eyes hardened. Yes. Good. We do not need them to take the castle. We need one gate confused at the correct moment. One tower fire. One signal that makes Bolton men look behind them while our line is still in front. Jon looked at her. You never said. I did not know if we had anyone who could use it, she replied. The answer was clean and merciless. Brynden almost admired it. Jon looked wounded, then thoughtful. Brother and sister, but not raised in the same kind of pain. They would have to learn quickly, or bury one another slowly. A young scout entered, wet and breathless. Riders south of Winterfell, Bolton men, watching us. Brynden smiled without warmth. Good. Jon looked at him. Good. If Ramsay has eyes, we can feed them. He turned to the gathered commanders. From this moment, every man in this camp has two duties. First, prepare to fight. Second, prepare to be misunderstood. You will grumble where Bolton scouts can hear. You will move badly where they can see. You will dig at night and complain by day that digging is cowardice. You will let them think this army is held together by one dead bastard's temper and one frightened girl's claim. No. Sansa's chin lifted slightly. Brynden caught it. Forgive me, my lady. That is what they must believe, not what I believe. I know. Yes, he thought. She did. Jon looked around the tent. And if Ramsay doesn't come out? Brynden's gaze returned to the map of Winterfell. Then we make his walls feel smaller every day. Cut his scouts. Burn his fodder. Poison his confidence. Send ravens he cannot answer. Remind the North there is a Stark outside his gates and a monster inside them. But he will come. Nay, you sound sure. I am sure of very little, but vain men hate being laughed at more than they fear being killed. Sansa looked toward Winterfell, though canvas blocked the view. Her voice lowered. Ramsay will come. The way she said it ended the argument. The council broke with no cheer, no great cry, no easy confidence. That was well. Confidence made men careless. Purpose made them work. By dusk, Jon's army had begun to change. Wildlings dragged wagons while cursing the stupidity of southern fish. Northmen dug trenches and disguised them under brush. Boys carried bundles of grinwood to pits hidden behind low rises. Women from the camp cut strips of cloth to tie around shield grips. Davos organized tools with the weary competence of a smuggler who had once known how to load ships without attracting tacksmen. Tormund shouted at men who shouted back, and somehow turned argument into labor. Lyanna Mormont inspected the digging with the severe disappointment of a grandmother trapped in a child's body. Brynden walked the ground until he knew it beneath his boots. Here the earth dipped. Here water would gather. Here cavalry would think the slope gentle and learn otherwise. Here archers could fire over friendly shields. Here men could retreat without appearing to flee. The field was not generous, but no field was. Good commanders did not ask ground for kindness. They asked what cruelty it could lend them. Near nightfall, he found Jon standing alone beyond the first trench, looking north toward Winterfell's distant walls. You should sleep, Brynden said. So should you. I am old. I have slept enough. Nah. Jon gave a humorless breath. I can't leave him. No one asked you to leave him. You asked me not to save him. Brynden stood beside him. The castle was a dark shape against the deepening sky. When I was young, Brynden said, my brother Hoster and I fought over everything. Duties, marriages, thought, pride. I left more than once because staying felt like surrender. Then years passed, and quarrels that had seemed like mountains became stones in my boot. Still painful. Smaller than I'd made them. By the time I understood that, age had eaten half the road back. No, not didn't. Jon said nothing. Edmure is a fool in many ways, Brynden continued. Soft where he should be hard, proud where he should be humble. But he is my brother's son. When Jaime used his child against him, Edmure opened Riverrun's gates. Part of me wanted to curse him for it. Part of me did. But another part knew exactly why he yielded. Love. Eh? Love? The finest leash ever made. Jon looked at him then. So what do I do with it? Hold it. Do not let Ramsay hold the other end. The words settled between them. Far off, a horn sounded from Winterfell's direction. Not alarm. Signal. Bolton patrol changing watch, perhaps. Or Ramsay reminding the dark that he still occupied the heart of the north. Jon's hand rested on Longclaw's pommel. If Rickon dies because I stayed behind a shield wall. If Rickon dies, he dies because Ramsay killed him. Jon closed his eyes. Brynden's voice softened, though only slightly. Do not steal the guilt from the guilty. Good men do that too often. For the first time, Jon looked less angry than afraid. Brynden knew fear when he saw it. Fear of failure. Fear of being the last son standing. Fear that resurrection had not made him chosen, only harder to bury. Your brother needs you alive, Brynden said. Your sister needs you thinking. Your army needs you commanding. Be angry after. Jon nodded once, barely. It was not surrender. It was not peace. It was enough. Behind them, the camp worked into darkness. Men dug the earth that might save them. Women sharpened stakes. Scouts carried false rumors toward waiting ears. And under a sky without stars, the old trout of Riverrun began teaching wolves and wildlings how not to die on a field chosen by a flayed man. Ramsay's first raven arrived before dawn. It came black-winged through freezing mist and settled on a post near the edge of camp as if it owned the world. The boy tending the watchbirds nearly lost a finger taking the message. The seal was pink wax pressed with the flayed man because even wax could be made obscene if a Bolton touched it. Jon read it in silence. Sansa watched his face rather than the parchment. Brynden watched both. The letter was not long. Cruel men often mistook brevity for strength. Ramsay named Jon Bastard, named Sansa Bride, named Rickon Guest, named the wildlings beasts, named every wound he thought would bleed if pressed. He promised dogs. He promised skins. He promised mercy only to those wise enough to kneel before the true warden of the north. Jon's hand tightened until the parchment creased. He wants an answer, Davos said. He wants a reaction, Brynden corrected. Tormund held out a hand. Let me answer. I'll draw him a picture. No, Sansa said. Her voice was quiet, but the word cut cleanly. Tormund blinked, then lowered his hand. Sansa took the letter from Jon. She read it once. Her face did not change until she reached Rickon's name. Then something flickered and vanished. He thinks this still works, she said. It did before, Jon replied. With me, she said. Not with us. Brynden heard the difference and marked it. What answer? Jon asked. Sansa looked at Brynden. He considered. No answer might seem strong, but silence allowed Ramsay to imagine whatever pleased him. Too clever an answer might warn him. Too brave an answer might bind Jon to pride. They needed something that would feed Ramsay's certainty without revealing their shape. Tell him you will meet him in the field, Brynden said. Jon frowned. That's all. No. Tell him you will meet him because no true lord hides behind walls, while his own bannermen question whether he fears a bastard and a girl. Davos winced appreciatively. That'll sting. Sansa's eyes sharpened. Add that the North will see which bastard deserves the name. Jon looked at her. Sansa. He killed his father and fed his stepmother to dogs. He wants people afraid. Make them laugh at him. Nay, nah, way. That's all. It go, get. Brynden nodded. Ay. So the answer was written. Not by Jon alone, nor Sansa alone, but between them, each word chosen like a barb. It accepted battle without naming terms. It mocked without overreaching. It mentioned Rickon only once, as Lord Eddard's son and trueborn blood of Winterfell. A reminder that Ramsay's hostage weakened his own claim even as he held it. When the raven flew back, the camp seemed to exhale. Then work resumed. The false disorder deepened. By daylight, wildlings and Northmen argued over food distribution where Bolton scouts might hear. A wagon was overturned deliberately near a ridge, and men cursed for half an hour before riding it badly. Jon was seen riding beyond the line with too few guards, then called back by Davos in a loud quarrel staged well enough that even Brynden nearly believed Davos' irritation. Sansa moved through camp with visible tension, speaking sharply to lords who would later carry reports through loose tongues. Tormund told anyone within earshot that if the kneelers did not know how to fight, the free folk would do the work themselves. At night, the real army emerged. No songs, no torches beyond shielded coals. Men dug with wrapped tools to soften the sound. Trenches were cut shallow at first, then deepened where shadow hid them from Winterfell's towers. Stakes were sharpened and rubbed with mud to dull fresh wood. Wagon wheels were braced. Gaps were measured. Retreat lanes were marked with stones under loose soil so men could find them by foot if smoke blinded the field. Brynden moved everywhere. He corrected the angle of stakes. He made archers practice firing from kneeling behind shield cover. He forced wildlings to rotate through the front line with northern spearmen until both groups learned at least the shape of one another's curses. He made Jon walk the retreat lanes in darkness until he could do it without looking. He made the Mormont girl assign her 62 where their stubbornness would strengthen the line rather than spend itself too early. "You place us behind," Lyanna demanded. "I place you where men are most likely to break. Then you admit we are strong. I admit you are loud enough to shame cowards and short enough for arrows to pass over." Her glare could have peeled paint from a gate. "I will accept that," she said at last, "because it is tactically sensible." Brynden watched her stomp away and thought the North had become a strange place if its children were more useful than half its lords. Sansa did her work more quietly. She wrote messages in her own hand, then burned drafts, then wrote again. She chose carriers from among those least likely to look brave. A washerwoman whose sister remained in Winterfell. A peddler with a limp Ramsay's guards had seen before and dismissed. A boy who could cry on command if stopped. The messages were not grand calls to rebellion. Grand words got people killed. They were small and precise. A broken tower stair. A kennel gate. A servant passage near the old kitchens. The hour when Bolton guards changed at the lesser East Postern. A request for smoke if loyalty remained. Brynden found her near the cookfires after midnight, sealing one such strip of parchment inside a hollow reed. "You have done this before," he said. She did not look up. "No, you do it well." "Dot. That is different." He sat on a cut stump nearby. His knees objected. He ignored them. "My mother trusted people," Sansa said after a while. "My father trusted honor. Robb trusted oaths. I trusted songs." She pushed wax into place. "Ramsay trusts fear. And you?" She looked toward Winterfell. "I trust what people do when they think no one powerful will save them." It was a hard answer. Too hard for a woman so young, but the world had not asked permission before making her so. "Fear works," Brynden said. "Yes. For a time." She looked at him then. "Men obey fear while they believe disobedience is certain death," he continued. "But when death comes either way, fear loses its throne. Ramsay has filled Winterfell with frightened people. If we show them he can lose, some will remember they hate him more than they fear him. And if they don't, then we take the castle without them, or die outside it." Sansa almost smiled. "You are not comforting. I have been told. My mother liked that about you." The words struck him more deeply than he expected. For a moment, the camp blurred. Not from tears, he told himself, but smoke. Always smoke. Caitlin as a girl had laughed at him when Hoster scolded his bluntness. Caitlin as a woman had trusted him with Robb's war more than Robb sometimes had. He wondered whether she would have recognized this daughter. Courtly manners burned away, courtesy reforged as weapon, grief hidden beneath iron. She was braver than most men I knew, he said. Sansa lowered her eyes. I used to think bravery looked different. It has many faces. Some are ugly. She sealed the last reed and handed it to the waiting washerwoman, who tucked it beneath the binding of a laundry bundle. The woman bowed not deeply but fiercely, then vanished into the camp's outer shadows. Sansa watched her go. Will Jon listen when it matters? She asked. Brynden did not answer quickly. That depends on what he believes the battle is. What do you mean? If he believes it is a chance to save Rickon, he will break. If he believes it is a chance to kill Ramsay, he may overreach. If he believes it is a duty to hold the line so Winterfell can return to House Stark, he may yet command. Nah. Sansa folded her hands into her sleeves. And what do you believe? Brynden looked at the sleeping army, at the trenches hidden by darkness, at the shape of the castle in the north. I believe we are outnumbered, underfed, politically fragile, and led by wounds as much as judgment. That sounds poor. It is. And still? And still Ramsay is a butcher pretending cruelty is command. Butchers understand fear, blood, appetite, and display. They do not understand patience unless someone else teaches it to them. Roose did. Hey, but Roose is dead. Sansa's face showed nothing, but her voice cooled. Ramsay killed him. So I hear. He kills anything that reminds him he was once powerless. Brynden considered that. Then we remind him again. The next morning, Ramsay's answer came not by raven but by rider. 3 Bolton men approached beneath a ragged peace banner, though peace had clearly never met them. Between them rode a 4th horse carrying a small bundle wrapped in gray cloth. The camp gathered before anyone gave orders. Jon pushed forward until Brynden caught his arm. Wait. The riders stopped beyond bowshot. One dismounted, placed the bundle on the ground and unwrapped it. A direwolf's head stared back with dead glass eyes. Shaggydog. The sound that moved through the Northmen was not a shout. It was something lower, almost animal. Sansa went white, but did not step back. Jon looked as though something inside him had been struck with an axe. The Bolton rider called. Lord Ramsay sends proof of the boy. He says more proof can be made if wanted. Tormund's hand went to his axe. Half the wildlings did the same. Brynden raised his voice. Any man who looses without my order digs latrines until the snow buries him. No one loosed. Jon walked forward alone despite Brynden's warning hand, but only 3 paces. Then he stopped. That mattered. Gods. That mattered. Tell Ramsay, Jon called. Voice rough but steady. I'm coming for my brother. The Bolton man smiled. Sansa stepped beside Jon. Tell Ramsay I remember his dogs' names. The smile faltered. Good girl, Brynden thought. The riders left the direwolf head and turned back toward Winterfell. When they were gone, Jon knelt in the mud before Shaggydog's head. He did not touch it at first. Sansa stood behind him like a statue carved from grief. Brynden allowed the army to see it. Not too long. Long enough. Then he ordered the head wrapped again and buried beneath the direwolf banner. Men worked harder that night, not because speeches had inspired them. Brynden gave none. Speeches spent heat better kept in the blood. They worked because the dead wolf had made the war plain. Ramsay Bolton did not hold a castle. He held insult. He held desecration. He held a boy in a cage and thought the North would watch politely. Near midnight, Jon came to Brynden where the last trench curved toward the stream. I stopped, Jon said. Brynden leaned on his shovel. I wanted to kill them. I still do. Good. Jon looked surprised. Anger is not the enemy, Brynden said. Obedience to anger is. Keep it fed, keep it chained, let it pull when you command. Jon looked over the dark field, where men moved like ghosts shaping the ground that would soon drink blood. Ramsay thinks he knows me. He knows enough to hurt you. And you? Brynden almost smiled. I know enough to make that expensive. The day before battle came bright and bitter. Sun broke through the clouds as if the gods wished to see clearly. Frost silvered the grass beyond camp. Breath smoked from men and horses. Winterfell stood in the distance with its walls dark against the pale morning. Banners hanging from towers where stark gray had been replaced by Bolton pink-eyed. Even from miles away, the flayed man seemed to mock the land beneath it. Brynden hated that banner more than he expected. He had seen many sigils in war. Lions, stags, krakens, flowers, eagles, towers, crossed hammers. Some belonged to fools, some to murderers, some to men who could be both before breakfast. But most at least pretended toward nobility, toward old deeds polished into symbols. The Bolton banner pretended nothing. It was a threat made cloth. A confession waved proudly. Ugly thing, Tormund said beside him. Brynden glanced up. Aye. Free folk would burn it. Civilized men would too. They only make speeches first. Tormund laughed. I like you better when you insult everyone. I do my best work broadly. They stood near the forward line where the ground had been remade by night and disguised by dawn. The trenches were almost invisible unless one knew where shadows should not fall. The mud flat looked natural. The water had been diverted beneath the surface until it waited like a trap under a skin. Stakes lay hidden under brush at angles meant not to impale cleanly, but to break momentum, snap legs, throw horses screaming into those behind them. Wagons stood badly by intention, their gaps inviting, their wheels braced with stones and iron pins. Shield stacks lay covered under hides. It was not enough. Brynden knew that. A commander who believed his own preparation sufficient had already begun losing. Ramsay still had more men. Ramsay still had cavalry. Ramsay still had the castle. Ramsay still had Rickon. A plan could improve odds. It could not purchase mercy from chance. But the field no longer belonged entirely to Bolton. That would have to do. At midday, Sansa's first signal came. A thin gray line of smoke rose from Winterfell's eastern side, lasted the count of 30, then vanished. Not kitchen smoke. Not chimney smoke. A controlled burn from the old laundry yard if her memory served. Brynden watched it without expression. Davos saw it too. That ours? Hey. What does it mean? It means someone inside still knows how to be brave quietly. An hour later, the peddler returned with a broken cartwheel and blood on his sleeve that was not his. He had been stopped twice. The second time, a Bolton guard had searched the wrong bundle because the right one smelled of spoiled onions. He carried no written reply. Only words. Old Nan's stair holds, he told Sansa, voice shaking with exhaustion. Kennels watch by 4 at day, 6 at night. East postern barred but hinge pin rotten. Man named Hullen's nephew says he can jam the second chain if he sees wolf smoke. But he says no rising unless the field turns. They won't die for a rumor. Sansa nodded. They shouldn't. Brynden looked at her approvingly. Good. Desperate loyalty is useful. Wasted loyalty is just another corpse. Name done. Jon joined them as the peddler was taken for food and rest. What is wolf smoke? Sansa answered. A fire in the broken tower. If they see Stark men reach the outer yard or Ramsay's line falter, they create confusion at the east postern. If they can, she agreed. Jon stared at Winterfell. The sun sharpened the lines of his face, making him look more like Ned than was kind. I hate waiting, he said. Hey, Brynden said. That is why waiting works. By late afternoon, Ramsay's army began to move outside the walls. Not fully. Testing. Displaying. Lines forming and breaking. Horsemen riding where they could be seen. Drums from within Winterfell. Slow and heavy. Bolton men in orderly ranks. Carstark banners. Umbra giants chained in old loyalty and new resentment. More shields than Jon had. More horses than Brynden liked. More confidence than wisdom allowed. Ramsay himself rode before them on a dark horse. Even at distance, he was easy to find. Not because he was large or splendid, he was neither, but because the army arranged itself around his appetite. He rode as if the field existed for his amusement. Men near him smiled too quickly or not at all. Two riders behind him carried something between them. A small figure bound at the wrists. Jon saw. So did Sansa. Rickon died. The boy was alive. For a moment, every plan on the field became fragile. He was thinner than a Stark boy should have been. Hair wild, legs unsteady when they dragged him from the horse. Too far to hear if he cried out. Close enough for his family to see him. Jon took one step forward. Brynden's hand closed around his arm. Not hard. He did not need hard. Jon stopped. Sansa made no sound, but Brynden saw her fingers dig into her own sleeve until the knuckles whitened. Across the field, Ramsay looked toward them and spread his arms as if greeting guests to a feast. "Can your archers reach?" Jon asked. "No. Can we move tonight?" "He wants you sleepless." "I am already sleepless." "Then he wants you stupid too." Jon's eyes did not leave Rickon. "He's just a boy." "Hey." He must be terrified. "I?" "Don't just say I." Brynden turned on him then, low and fierce. "What would you have me say? That war spares boys if brothers love them fiercely enough? That Ramsay will grow a conscience because you ride prettily? That the gods count tears and adjust arrows accordingly? Look at him. Do not look away. That is what Ramsay holds. Now look at your line." "Nah." Jon's breathing was rough. "Look," Brynden commanded. Jon forced himself to turn. The army watched him. Wildlings die. Northmen dot. Mormonts. Rivermen. Men who had left homes, caves, ships, ruins, and graves, because the Stark name still meant something worth bleeding under. They watched not because they lacked pity for Rickon, but because their lives now hung on whether Jon's pity could stand beside command without devouring it. Jon saw them. Brynden felt the moment land. "I see them," Jon said. "Good." Across the field, Ramsay had Rickon hauled back toward the Bolton line. Not released. Not yet. A promise deferred. Crueler than action because it gave hope time to ferment. As dusk gathered, both armies withdrew to their camps, though neither truly rested. Brynden gathered the commanders one last time without calling it a council. Councils invited speeches. This was instruction. When Ramsay brings the boy forward tomorrow, no one moves until the horn. First horn, shields. Second horn, smoke. Third horn, advance by line, not by impulse. If Jon rides Tormund, you stop him. Tormund nodded. Hit him, if needed. Jon gave him a dark look. The wildling grinned. I've wanted to try. Davos, you hold reserve until I signal. Do not commit because the front looks ugly. It will look ugly. Battles are ugly. Davos nodded. And if you die before signaling, then use your own miserable judgment. I've survived on it so far. Barely, from what I hear. Davos smiled faintly. Sansa, Brynden said. All eyes moved to her. You remain behind the second ridge until the castle signal or collapse. She lifted her chin. I will not hide. Good. Hide anyway. Jon opened his mouth. Sansa raised a hand without looking at him. Brynden continued. Ramsay wants you visible when he breaks Jon. Deny him. Your living claim matters more than your pride. If we fail, someone must still carry Stark blood beyond this field. Me. "I know what I am worth," she said coldly. "Then spend yourself carefully." That silenced even her. Lyanna Mormont said, "And my men." "At the hinge." Brynden pointed. "Where the line bends. If that breaks, the whole field opens." She nodded, satisfied by danger. The last light died slowly. Men ate what might be their last meals. Some sharpened blades already sharp. Some prayed to old gods, new gods, red gods, no gods. Wildlings shared sour drink with Northmen who had called them savages 2 days earlier. Rivermen sat together and spoke softly of rivers no one might see again. Brynden walked alone before sleeping. He passed Jon, who sat with Longclaw across his knees and Ghost beside him, the direwolf's red eyes reflecting firelight. He passed Sansa, speaking quietly with Brienne, who had arrived earlier with Podrick, and looked at Brynden with the guarded satisfaction of a woman whose warnings had finally been believed by someone. He passed Davos writing a short letter he did not seal. He passed Tormund snoring upright against a wagon wheel. At the edge of camp, he found the buried head of Shaggydog beneath the direwolf banner. The earth was freshly turned. Someone had placed stones around it. Not a grave fit for a direwolf, perhaps, but war rarely offered proper endings. Brynden stood there under the cold stars. "I could use your mother tomorrow," he said softly. Not sure whether he spoke to the dead wolf, the dead boy king, or the dead woman whose daughter now slept under guard behind him. She had a way of making brave men feel ashamed of being foolish. The wind moved over the field. No answer came. He had not expected one. He knelt with difficulty and pressed one gloved hand to the cold earth. "Sleep, wolf," he said. "We will wake the rest of them." Battle morning smelled of iron before blood had been spilled. Men said that was imagination, but Brynden knew better. Armies made their own weather. Fear soured breath. Leather sweated oil. Horses stamped earth into damp heat. Sharpened steel carried a scent when enough of it gathered beneath a cold sky. The fields south of Winterfell woke under a pale sun, and every man standing upon it understood that by dusk the ground would have new names buried in it. Ramsay formed first. Of course he did. He wanted the display. Bolton infantry in dark ranks. Karstark men to one side, Umber strength to the other. Cavalry positioned with enough visibility to promise thunder. Archers forward but not too far. Disciplined, Brynden noted with irritation. Ramsay was a monster, but he had not inherited fools alone. Some man in that host knew how to dress a line. Jon's army formed more slowly by design. Wildlings bickered loudly as they took position. Northmen shouted for shields that were exactly where they should be. A wagon wheel came loose and was hammered back into place with theatrical profanity. From the Bolton side, it would look like fear turning men clumsy. Beneath the performance, the shield ranks settled where Brynden had placed them. The trenches lay hidden, and the smoke crews waited with covered pots. Brynden rode along the front on the ugly gelding they had stolen days before. The horse disliked him. He respected that. Honest hatred in a mount was preferable to false gentleness. "Hold until horn," he said again and again. "If the man beside you runs, hold. If arrows fall, hold. If you see a god walking naked across the field, hold until horn." A wildling woman with a scar down her cheek laughed. "What if the gods got a nice arse? Admire it while holding." That got a better laugh. Laughter before battle was useful if not allowed to grow into carelessness. Near the center, Jon sat mounted behind the first shield line, exactly where he had agreed to be, and exactly where every instinct in him hated standing. Tormund stayed close on foot, axe in hand. Not quite guard, not quite friend, entirely necessary. Davos waited with the reserve behind the second rise. Sansa was farther back, hidden from Bolton view, though Brynden knew she would find some place to see. Brienne would not let her too close. Brynden trusted Brienne's stubbornness more than any order. Ramsay rode forward. A hush moved across both armies. He came alone at first, smiling, bow across his saddle, black leather, clean hair stirred by wind. Behind him, 2 men dragged Rickon to the front. The boy stumbled. His hands were bound. His face was pale with cold and terror, but he did not cry out. Stark blood, Brynden thought bitterly. Even children were expected to spend it bravely. Jon's horse shifted beneath him. Brynden turned in the saddle and looked directly at him. Jon did not move. Ramsay cut Rickon's bonds. For one terrible second, no one understood. Then Ramsay leaned close to the boy and said something. Too far for Brynden to hear, but the meaning revealed itself when Rickon began to run. Not toward the Bolton line. Away from it. Toward Jon, not. The field inhaled. Ramsay watched him go with a child's delight. Jon's horse screamed as he hauled the reins. Brynden's hand rose. No horn. Rickon ran. Guy. He was not fast. Gods. He was not fast enough. His legs were stiff from confinement, his balance poor, his breath visible in white bursts. He ran because hope had been placed in front of him like a knife and terror behind him like fire. Across the open field, he seemed impossibly small. Ramsay lifted his bow. Jon made a sound Brynden would remember until death. Still, Brynden held his hand up. The first arrow flew. It struck the ground behind Rickon. Ramsay was playing. Of course he was playing. Drawing it out. Letting hope grow taller so its fall would please him more. Jon leaned forward. Tormund's hand clamped onto his bridle. Not yet, the wildling growled. The second arrow flew. It struck to Rickon's left. The boy flinched, but kept running. Brynden dropped his hand. The first horn sounded. The front shields rose as one. The second horn followed before Ramsay could fully understand. Smoke pots burst along the forward line. Wet straw, pitch, grinwood, and oil-fed rags belched thick gray clouds that rolled low across the field. Not enough to hide everything. Enough to ruin certainty. Enough to anger an archer who preferred his cruelty clean. "Advance!" Brynden roared. The shield line moved. Not fast. Not heroic. Not the way songs wanted men to move when a child ran under arrows. They advanced with shields locked, knees bent, pace measured by shouted counts. Archers behind them fired not at Ramsay but at the ground ahead of Rickon, throwing dirt in confusion, forcing Bolton bowmen to shift, spoiling lines of sight. Ramsay's third arrow vanished into smoke. No one saw where it landed. Jon did. He surged forward, but not alone. The line surged with him because the third horn had sounded, because Brynden had timed it at the edge of what Jon could bear and what discipline could survive. Tormund released the bridle and ran beside the horse, wildlings roaring now as the advance quickened. "Keep line," Brynden shouted. "Keep line, damn you!" Some did. Some did not. No battle plan survived first grief. But enough held. Enough shields stayed together. Enough men remembered the ground beneath them had been chosen. Rickon appeared in the smoke, fell, rose, fell again. An arrow jutted from his shoulder. Not his heart. Shoulder. Jon saw him and drove forward, no longer fully behind the shield line, but not alone in the open killing field Ramsay had wanted. 2 Mormont men moved with him. A wildling took an arrow meant for his horse. Pedir, the young riverman, raised a shield over his head and screamed as a shaft punched through wood into his forearm. The line bent toward Rickon but did not shatter. Ramsay's smile had vanished. Good, Brynden thought. Now we begin. Bolton horns sounded. Cavalry moved. The earth answered. The first rank of Bolton horse came at a canter, then faster. Lances dipping, hooves beating frost from the ground. They expected panic. They expected scattered wildlings and a bastard lord alone beyond help. Instead, they found smoke, shields, and mud where firm earth had seemed to wait. The front horses hit the softened ground and lost speed as if seized from below. One stumbled, snapping a foreleg with a sound Brynden heard even through battle noise. Another veered into the hidden stakes and threw its rider head first. The second line crashed into the first. Momentum tangled. Men shouted. Horses screamed. The charge became a knot. "Archers!" Brynden shouted. Arrows rose from behind the Stark line in a dark, ragged sheet. Not enough to destroy, enough to punish. Jon reached Rickon. For an instant, Brynden saw them clearly through a break in smoke. Jon leaning from the saddle, one arm hooked around the boy, Rickon's face buried against him, both alive beneath a sky trying to kill them. Then another arrow struck Jon's horse. The animal went down. Jon and Rickon disappeared. The field lurched toward chaos. Ramsay's infantry advanced, sensing the moment. Bolton's shields came on steadily. Karstark men shouted. Umber axes rose. The cavalry knot widened, some riders forcing around the mud trap toward the flanks. Brynden blew the fourth horn himself. The Stark line gave ground. To frightened eyes, it looked like retreat. To trained feet, it was measured. Back through the marked lanes. Back behind the wagon gaps. Back far enough to draw Bolton horse deeper, not far enough to break. Wildlings cursed, but moved. Northmen stumbled but corrected. Mormonts at the hinge screamed insults so ferocious that men near them forgot to flee. "Left wagon!" Brynden shouted. The braced wagon shifted as hidden ropes were cut. It swung inward, closing one inviting gap just as riders entered. Horses crashed against timber. Spears thrust from behind. Men fell beneath wheels. The field became ugly in the way Brynden had promised. And in the ugliness, Ramsay's clean story died. Jon rose from beneath the dead horse covered in mud and fury. For one heartbeat, Brynden feared the whole battle would still collapse into the shape Ramsay desired. Jon stood exposed, long claw in hand. Rickon crumpled behind him with blood soaking his shoulder. Bolton infantry advancing through smoke. The sight pulled at men like a hook through flesh. Wildlings surged. Northmen shouted. The line buckled forward when it should have been bending back. Then Jon did something wiser than Brynden expected. He lifted long claw high and stepped backward. Not away from Rickon. Around him. Over him. Shielding him while moving toward the line instead of away from it. Tormund reached him first, roaring like a bear, and together they dragged Rickon behind a wall of shields that slammed closed around them. The army saw Jon retreat with his brother alive, and because he did not run forward, they did not entirely lose themselves. "Davos!" Brynden shouted, though Davos was too far to hear. The signal flag rose anyway. Good man. The reserve moved. Bolton infantry struck the front. There was no elegance after that. Battles narrowed to inches once lines met. All the cleverness of maps, all the patience of trenches, all the secret labor beneath moonlight, became the press of shield against shield, breath against breath, blades searching for gaps in leather, screams cut short by mud. Brynden had always hated singers for making battle sound spacious. Men did not die in heroic distance. They died with someone's elbow in their ribs and another man's spit on their cheek. The Bolton line was heavier, better armored in places, more accustomed to command. They pushed hard, expecting the smaller army to crumple now that the first trick had spent itself. Brynden had placed his rivermen behind the center for exactly that moment. "No!" he barked. Hal led them in. Not many. Never enough. But veterans did not need numbers to matter if placed at the right wound. They struck the Bolton push at a slight angle, shields low, spears driving into thighs and groins where armor thinned. Petyr fought one-handed, his other arm bound around an arrow shaft. Mara moved like a knife in fog, appearing where men turned too slowly. The Bracken brothers fired until arrows were gone, then joined with short axes. The center held. On the right, Tormund's wildlings turned the fight savage. They could not match Bolton formation, so Brynden had not asked them to. He had given them broken ground, wagon cover, and permission to make order impossible. They climbed timber, struck from above, rolled beneath shields, dragged men down by belts and hair. A Bolton captain tried to form a spear block near the mud trap and died with a wildling woman's teeth in his throat. On the left, the Mormonts refused to move. 62. Brynden had been told. Fewer now. Still enough to anchor the hinge like iron hammered into frozen earth. Lyanna herself stood behind them with a dagger too large for her hand and a voice that carried like judgment. "Bear Island knows no fear," she shouted. A man beside Brynden muttered, "That child frightens me." "She should," Brynden said. The first great danger came when Umbermen broke through near the stream. They were larger than the men before them, armored in rough mail, axes chopping shield rims apart. One carried a banner of the giant in chains and swung it like a weapon after its pole splintered. The northern levies facing them bent too quickly. Fear opened a gap. Through it, Bolton riders began to force their way around the flank. Brynden saw the shape forming and cursed. If the flank rolled, the trenches would trap his own retreat. The field that had saved them would become a bowl. He rode toward the gap, the ugly gelding nearly throwing him as an arrow hissed past its ear. "Close!" he shouted. "Close, you sons of frightened goats!" A Hornwood man turned to run. Brynden struck him across the face with the flat of his sword. "Run later." The man stared, stunned, bleeding from the mouth. "Shield up." To his credit, the man lifted his shield. Brynden threw himself into the gap with the few men near him. Age vanished because it had no place in the moment. His sword found wrists, throats, the inside of an elbow. An umber axe glanced off his shoulder hard enough to light pain through his side. He stepped inside the neck swing and drove his pommel into the man's jaw, then opened his belly under the mail. Someone shouted his name. Someone else shouted for the trout. For one mad instant, Tully Blue appeared in the heart of a northern battle, and men rallied to it simply because a banner not yet dead was easier to follow than fear. Then Ghost came through the smoke. The direwolf hit the flank like winter-given teeth. Bolton men who had faced human enemies with discipline broke when the white wolf tore into them. Horses screamed. A rider toppled backward as Ghost leapt. Jon followed, blood on his face, long claw cutting in both hands. He did not chase Ramsay. He did not vanish into rage. He struck where the line needed him, and the men around him saw. "Snow!" wildlings roared. "Stark!" Northmen answered. Not all. Not yet. But enough. Brynden heard it and understood the danger as much as the power. Names could lift men. Names could also drag them into foolishness. He turned in the saddle and shouted until his throat burned. "Hold the hinge! Hold the damned hinge!" They held. The second danger came from arrows. Ramsay, thwarted in spectacle, turned to slaughter. Bolton archers shifted position and began firing into the crush without much care for their own front. Cruel, but effective. His men were more numerous. He could afford waste better than Jon could. Arrows fell on wildling and Bolton alike. Men screamed. Shields lifted too late. The smoke had thinned. The field opened. Brynden signaled the last covered pots. Fresh smoke rolled low, but wind betrayed them, pushing part of it back toward their own line. Men coughed, blinded. A pocket of wildlings stumbled into a shallow trench and panicked. Bolton infantry pressed, sensing weakness. Davos committed without waiting for Brynden's signal. For half a heartbeat, Brynden cursed him. Then he saw the angle and blessed him. The reserve did not strike the center. Davos sent it toward the archers, screened by the smoke blown sideways. Not a glorious charge. A smuggler's move. Men slipping where attention was elsewhere, then erupting with knives and short swords among bowmen who had thought themselves behind the battle. The arrow storm faltered. "Onion Knight," Brynden muttered. Not useless. The third danger came from Ramsay himself, not his sword. Brynden doubted Ramsay's courage when real risk stood close. The danger was his eye for terror. He saw that Rickon had lived long enough to deny him the first cruelty, so he reached for another. Bolton horns sounded from Winterfell. The castle gates opened. For a moment, Brynden feared fresh troops. Instead, a line of prisoners was dragged onto the battlements. Servants, old men, perhaps Stark loyalists caught after Sansa's messages. ropes around their necks. Bolton guards behind them. Sansa saw from the ridge. Brynden knew she saw because the broken tower smoke began too early. A dark plume rose from within Winterfell's eastern side. The signal. Too soon, perhaps, or exactly when courage could no longer wait. Ramsay's plan was clear. Hang the prisoners inside of both armies, remind Winterfell's hidden loyalists what defiance cost, and force Sansa's secret hand before the field had turned. The first body dropped. A groan moved through the Stark line. Jon looked toward the walls. "Do not," Brynden snarled, though Jon could not hear. The second body dropped. Then the East Postern smoked. Not gray. Black. Something inside Winterfell had caught larger than intended. Ramsay turned in the saddle. There it was. The first real fracture in him. Not fear yet. Outrage. Possession threatened. His castle, his stage, his toy, disturbed by hands he had thought broken. Brynden seized the moment. "Forward!" he roared. "Now, while he looks home." The horns took it up. 1, 2, 3. The Stark line, which had been bending and bleeding and swearing under the weight of numbers, surged. Not everywhere. Not cleanly. But battles turned on uneven things. A few Bolton men glanced back at Winterfell's smoke. A few Karstarks hesitated. An Umber captain shouted conflicting orders. Ramsay's cavalry, already mauled by mud and stakes, could not deliver the clean strike needed to restore command. Jon saw the same opening. This time, when he advanced, the army went with him by order rather than desperation. Longclaw rose and fell. Tormund smashed through a Bolton shield with his axe. Davos Reserve drove archers back toward their own infantry. Ghost flashed white through legs and smoke. Lyanna's Mormonts pushed from the hinge with short, brutal steps, chanting Bear Island under their breath like a curse. Brynden felt the battle tilt. Not won. Never won until the enemy could no longer kill you. But tilted. Ramsay understood at last that the field had betrayed him because he had mistaken cruelty for knowledge. He had known Jon's love, Sansa's fear, the North's exhaustion, the wildlings' disorder. He had not known Brynden's trenches, Davos' patience, Tormund's adaptability, Lyanna's iron, the servants inside Winterfell, or the dangerous shape formed when wounded people stopped waiting to be saved and began choosing the manner of their defiance. Bolton lines began to fold inward toward the road to Winterfell. "Do not chase," Brynden shouted. "Press, press, don't chase." Some chased anyway. Men always did. Victory smelled stronger than discipline. A dozen wildlings broke after fleeing Karstarks and were cut down by a Bolton rear guard. Brynden swore and sent riders to pull them back. Jon found him amid the smoke, Rickon carried behind the second line by 2 Mormont men. "He's alive," Jon said hoarsely. "For now." Jon's face tightened. "That is not cruelty," Brynden said. "It is instruction. Keep him behind the ridge. Keep yourself here. Ramsay is falling back. He wants walls now. Then we follow." "Yes," Brynden said, looking toward Winterfell's smoke. "But not as dogs after meat, as wolves after a wounded stag." Jon nodded. This time, he listened. Ramsay retreated before he fled. That distinction mattered. A fleeing man abandoned shape. A retreating commander tried to preserve it. Ramsay still had enough wit, or enough officers with wit around him, to draw his remaining force back in stages toward Winterfell, rather than let them dissolve across the field. Bolton shields locked, then gave ground. Karstark men covered gaps. Umber survivors dragged wounded captains clear. Cavalry circled where possible to discourage pursuit, though their horses were blown and bloodied from the traps. Brynden watched with unwilling respect for the army, and no respect at all for the man who owned it. "They're not broken yet," Davos said, appearing with blood on his sleeve and mud up to his waist. "No, but they are remembering the castle behind them." "Is that good?" "It is if the castle is becoming less friendly." Black smoke thickened over Winterfell's eastern side. Not enough to suggest the whole fortress burned, thank the gods. Enough to trouble men whose wives, supplies, horses, and retreat waited inside. Enough to tell hidden loyalists that the field had not been lost. Enough to tell Ramsay that fear had sprung a leak. Jon wanted to push faster. Brynden saw it in every line of him. Rickon had been carried behind the ridge alive but wounded, and that miracle had put fire in Jon's blood. Dangerous fire. Useful fire. Brynden kept him close enough to command and far enough from Ramsay's silhouette to prevent stupidity from dressing itself as justice. "Steady!" Brynden called. "Dress the line. Shields forward." The army obeyed unevenly, but obedience no longer had to be perfect. The field itself had done much of the work. Bolton dead and broken horses cluttered the ground. Trenches forced retreat into channels. Wagons split the space. Ramsay's men could not simply wheel and crush. They had to withdraw through the same ugliness that had ruined their charge. The Stark host advanced like a wounded animal that had discovered its teeth were still sharp. At the first wagon gap, a Karstark captain tried to rally a counterpush. He raised his sword and shouted that Ramsay held Winterfell, that the Boltons had the numbers, that traitors would be flayed. He might even have steadied them if a young Mormont woman had not thrown a spear through his throat, midway through the word flayed. The men around him stared as he fell. Tormund struck next, roaring into the hesitation, and the counterpush died unborn. At the stream, Umbermen fought hardest. Perhaps they knew retreat would mark them as traitors to whichever side survived. Perhaps they hated wildlings more than they feared Boltons. Perhaps they had simply been placed where pride left no road backward. They stood in a rough half-circle, axes low, shields scarred, refusing to yield while Ramsay's main body moved behind them. Jon faced them. For a moment, old northern history seemed to gather there. Stark and Umber, names that should have stood together against winter, now divided by murdered boys, broken oaths, and the long poison of fear. Jon lifted Longclaw. "You followed the man who murdered your lord," he called. And Umber spat blood. "And you brought wildlings through the wall." "Hey!" Tormund shouted. "And we're lovely once you get to know us." No one laughed. Jon stepped forward. "Stand aside. Bend the knee to Sansa Stark, trueborn daughter of Winterfell, and live to answer for what you've done. Keep Ramsay's road and die for him while he runs." The Umber line wavered. Brynden could have kissed him for that, if affection had not been against his principles. A lesser man would have offered pardon. A crueler man would have promised slaughter. Jon offered survival with judgment attached. It was the right bitter taste for northern mouths. One older Umber lowered his axe. Another snarled and struck him across the helm. That decided it. The line tore itself apart. Some tried to stand aside. Some tried to hold, and the Stark advance hit them while they argued. It was ugly, brief, and necessary. When it ended, the road to Winterfell lay clearer. Ramsay saw. He turned his horse and rode harder. Not a retreat now, a flight. The sight passed through both armies like lightning. Bolton men who had believed themselves withdrawing under command saw their lord abandoning them for the gates. Some kept formation from habit. Others cursed. A few ran after him. A few threw down shields. The Karstark banner dipped, rose, dipped again, then vanished behind a knot of men fighting in three directions. "Now," Brynden said. Jon did not need the order. The Stark horns sounded, not desperate now, but savage. The line surged toward Winterfell. Ramsay's rear guard collapsed under the knowledge that their master had spent them and fled. The field became pursuit despite Brynden's shouted restraint, but the distance to the castle was short, and the enemy's morale shorter. Winterfell's gates began to close. Ramsay reached them first, horse lathered white at the mouth. Bolton guards hauled the great doors inward. Men outside screamed to be admitted. Some were, many were not. Ramsay did not look back. Then the east postern failed. Not opened grandly. Not thrown wide like a song's gate. It lurched. Stuck. shifted again. A chain clanged from within. Smoke poured through the gap. A man screamed in the old stones, then another. For one heartbeat, the little gate hung half open, useless to an army but wide enough for courage. Brynden saw it from the field. "There!" he shouted. "East Postern." Mara was already running with the rivermen. The Bracken brothers followed. Hal cursed his knees and followed anyway. A score of Northmen saw them and joined. Wildlings, not understanding the gate but understanding opportunity, ran after anything that looked like trouble. Jon looked torn between the main gate and the postern. Brynden pointed. "The main gate is Ramsay's story. The postern is ours." They rode. Arrows fell from Winterfell's walls, hurried and poorly aimed. Smoke spoiled the archers' sight. Men inside the castle were shouting in confusion. The black plume rose from somewhere near the kennels or laundry yard, and beneath it another signal appeared. Gray cloth from a tower slit, then gone, then there again. Sansa's people were alive. The postern gap widened another foot. A Bolton guard appeared inside, trying to force the chain back into place. Mara reached him first, driving her knife through his hand and into the wood behind it. He screamed. Hal put a spear through his mouth. The rivermen heaved against the gate. From inside, someone pushed with them. The hinge pin snapped. The east postern opened. Not enough for horses, enough for men. "Shields!" Brynden barked. The first through died. That was the cost of doors. A riverman took a spear under the ribs. A wildling caught an axe in the neck. A Mormont man forced over their bodies and made space with a short sword. Then the gap became a wound, and the Stark host poured fingers into it. Winterfell did not fall. Not then. Castles did not fall simply because a gate opened. Men inside fought. Bolton guards knew the yards. Karstark retainers tried to seal the passage. Arrows fired from inner walkways. Stones dropped from above. Smoke blinded attackers and defenders alike. The postern yard became a killing box. Brynden entered on foot with his shield up and sword low. The smell struck him first. Smoke, shit, blood, wet stone, dogs. Always dogs with Ramsay. The sounds of the field changed behind walls, became sharper, trapped, echoing against the castle that had once held Stark children and now spat Bolton fear from every doorway. "Left wall!" he shouted. 2 spearmen turned too slowly and died. 3 others heard and lifted shields in time for stones to crack against wood. "Archers to the stair. Tormund, clear that door." "And me." "Oh." Tormund laughed like a delighted madman and threw himself at the door with 4 wildlings behind him. Jon came through next, Longclaw red to the hilt, Ghost at his side. Men around him shouted Stark now without hesitation. Not Snow. Stark. Brynden heard it, saw Jon hear it, saw him push the word away because the fight in front of him mattered more. Good. Good? Inside the yard, the hidden loyalists revealed themselves in fragments. A kennelboy tripped a Bolton man with a chain and was nearly killed before Brienne appeared like judgment in steel, cutting the attacker down with Oathkeeper flashing pale in the smoke. A gray-haired cook hurled boiling water from a doorway and vanished before arrows answered. 2 stable hands dragged a beam across an inner passage, blocking reinforcements long enough for Mormont spears to form. These were not soldiers. They were frightened people with 1 moment of courage each. Brynden used every moment they gave him. "Hold the postern!" he shouted. "Do not chase inward. Secure the yard." None. Jon pointed Longclaw toward the inner gatehouse. Ramsay went to the main yard. Then let him stew there. Hell regroup. Hell try. We stop him from having time. Brynden ordered archers onto the captured lower wall. Davos brought men through the postern in disciplined packets rather than a mob, blessing the old smuggler again with silent approval. Tormund's wildlings cleared the smokehouse door and found 6 Bolton men hiding behind sacks of grain. They killed 4, took two and would have killed those as well if Sansa had not entered the yard with Brienne and spoken one word. Enough. It should not have carried. The yard was chaos. Men shouted, coughed, died, called for water, called for mothers, called for gods. Dogs barked from somewhere deeper in the castle, frantic and hungry. Yet her voice seemed to pass through the smoke with the authority of the stones themselves. Men turned. Sansa stood inside Winterfell again. For a moment, the battle paused around the sight of her. Not stopped. Battle never granted such courtesy, but paused in the hearts of those who recognized what had changed. The girl Ramsay had hunted had returned through fire and blood, not hidden behind an army but walking at its edge. Face pale, eyes fixed, cloak dark with soot. She looked not triumphant. Triumph was too small. She looked claimed by the place and claiming it in return. A Bolton prisoner spat at her feet. Lady Bolton. Brienne struck him so hard with the pommel of her sword that teeth scattered across the stones. Sansa did not blink. "Where is he?" she asked. No one had to ask who. A servant woman emerged from behind a broken cart, coughing into her sleeve. "The great yard, my lady." He took men toward the kennels, then the hall. He said, "Loose the dogs if the gate falls." A shadow crossed Sansa's face. Jon heard it too. Dogs? Brynden remembered the dead direwolf, the letter, the rumors. The woman's voice speaking of names she remembered. "Ramsay wants one last theater," he said. "Then we deny him," Sansa replied. "No," Jon said. "And there was ice in him now. We end it." Brynden looked between them and knew the chapter of the field had closed. The defense of Winterfell had begun, though they were the ones breaking in. If Ramsay could rally inside, the castle might become a maze of slaughter. If he loosed his hounds, fear might do indoors what cavalry failed to do outside. If Bolton men reached the walls in order, they could trap Stark forces between yards and gates. There was no room now for exhaustion. Brynden lifted his sword. "Rivermen with me. Mormonts hold the gate. Davos, feed men through steady. Torment, take the yard by noise if nothing else. Jon, do not outrun your line." "Nay, bah." Jon glanced back, almost smiling despite blood and smoke. "You keep saying that, and you keep needing it." Sansa stepped close to Brynden as men moved around them. "My uncle," she said quietly, and the word struck him harder than Sir ever had. "Can we hold it?" Brynden looked at the postern, the smoke, the captured wall, the men still pouring through, the Winterfell stones dark with Bolton blood and Stark return. "No," he said. "We take more, or we die here." She nodded, accepting truth as if she had expected nothing kinder. "Then take more." The old Blackfish smiled at last, sharp as a hook beneath dark water. "With pleasure." And through the smoke of Winterfell's wounded yard, under the first stark cries heard within those walls in years, Brynden Tully led the living deeper into the Castle of Wolves.